Hey everybody, welcome to the round 9 player ratings video. Very excited to be filming this right now. Over the journey, we've been doing a lot of these player ratings. A lot of these videos have been done in just poor performances, and I never, ever will forget what it's like filming these after a diabolical loss. But when you sometimes get the chance to do these after wins like what we had in round 9, it's super special. So I'm loving it. I think that was the best win of the season. Oh, maybe not. Maybe Richmond. Richmond was important, but this one, there were so many elements to it. I think so many of the people in the footy world, whether it be non-supporters or even supporters, I think almost wrote us off. Didn't give us a chance. Thought that this was just the writing on the wall, and seen this story before, and we're just finding a reason why we couldn't get it done. But just to see the group accept the challenge and thrive under the challenge was really pleasing, and I'm just grateful to be here and talking about a good win. Now, if you're new to the player ratings videos, welcome to the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. What I like to do is talk about each player, give them a rating between 1 and 10, 5 being the pass mark, and basically nothing personal, just about their performance. It really is just a discussion point. It's not right, it's not official, it's just a talking point, and then we can chat about it in the comments. If you feel like any of these ratings need to be changed higher or lower, just put a comment, let me know. Put X player to X rating, and we can go from there. If you're returning, you know how it works. Now, these player ratings videos are sponsored by our friends at doinabit. Mark Sanders, the founder of the company there, runs a really tight ship, an activewear brand, and doing a bit is all about exactly what that word is, doing a bit. So whether that be in your work life, your personal life, we're all trying to achieve something out here. So great company, great message to get behind, and have a look at their catalog in the description. I've got the link there, and we'll go from there. Now, let's begin. As the team was named, we start in the back line, Brodie Kemp, Jacob Wiedering, and Lockie Plowman. Kempy, his situation is fascinating because we've been grooming him playing in this half-forward role for a lot of this year in the twos. And then I think due to necessity, we put him in the back line and brought him up to the ones. And, I thought there were times where he probably got outmarked by Riccardi, gave away a free kick right in the first quarter siren. He had his moments where, just didn't go his way. But, you got to remember where he's at. First of all, he's only played a couple of games of AFL. Secondly, he hasn't been really focusing as heavily on that backline position as what he has in other areas of the ground. So he's in this really early phase of his development just to round out his game. But you know what? I thought as the game went on, he got better. It's a good sign. He's got something. Whatever it is, he has it. I gave him a 7 for his game, knowing that he's such a young player coming into a system. I know he had his shortcomings at times, but I just thought he still kept responding, took strong marks. I think he's absolutely going to be a player that breaks down the door and stamps himself in this 22, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. I'm just super excited to get, 10 games in a row into him and see where he goes from there, because I feel like he's the kind of player you can throw him in the deep end and he'll figure his way to swim to the top. So I gave him a 7, really pleased with how he fought. Wiedering, another one whose situation's interesting just because he's obviously the leader and the general down there, and he loses his mates every week, it seems. Oscar McDonald, Mitch McGovern, Zach Williams, Luke Parks in and out. Like, there's just a lot going on in our back line, and he's been the constant one there, and I think he's doing a fantastic job. Some of his spoiling was phenomenal, just really stamping himself physically. Had a few moments, again, that didn't go his way, but don't they all? And don't we all? But he's just his ability to stay on top of himself mentally and just continue to lead the group and, communicate back there is exceptional. I sort of flirted between 8 and 9. I felt like 8 would have been a little unjustified, so I went with 9, but I'd be interested to see how you saw his game. I think he's just working through his leadership, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job. And, I'm a big Jacob Wiedering fan, so I love what he brings to the table. Now, Lockie Plowman, for all the criticism and all the whipping that this man gets, can we get a standing ovation for Lockie Plowman? First of all, gave him a 10, and I loved his first 2 contests, said it all. Just strong in the contest, took 2 intercept marks, and just looked on. And it's something I haven't seen much from him this year. I think he showed a bit of it last week. But over the last few seasons, I remember sort of theorising about him. When he first came to the club, he had this attacking flair or this will to impose himself offensively and, intercept mark and whatnot. And then he sort of focused in on just stopping his man. But I feel like for us to move forward with him, I still think he can get better. I think he probably went through a period where he was just focusing on stopping his man, but he just looked engaged. He looked different. There was a different energy about him. He looked willing and wanting to set up play offensively and just looked more forceful with everything he did. And, it could be something as simple as understanding his role, to the most of its ability due to the coaching group communicating it to him. But yeah, there was just something different about him, and I'm pleased to see it because he's got the attributes. Before the game started, I was very happy to see him in the side because I think he was the right matchup for someone like a Toby Green with his attributes, and he didn't let us down. I thought it was his best game probably in a while. So I gave him a 10. Loved it. Absolutely well deserved. Next up, we have Sam Doherty. Now, Doc gave him a 10. I gave him a 10. He started superbly, and he had a really fascinating moment, really unlike him. He turned the ball over and basically gave the ball straight to Toby Green, and who kicked a goal. And there were moments which looked a little just uncharacteristic from him. Just a few fumbles, just wasn't that one-touch player that we've seen, just in a few contests. But the overall game was great. And at the end of the day, in the fourth quarter, when we put the foot down and we needed a ceiling goal, he was one that really stood up in that fourth. And I put a lot of gravity on what he was able to do, not only throughout the game, but in that fourth quarter when it really heated up. Because those are the moments, ultimately, that we need to be able to trust the leaders come finals time when we're eventually playing finals, whether that be this year or whenever it is. So I loved his game. He's an inspiration, and the commentary was perfect. He is the story of the season, and just got nothing but admiration for him. So I gave him a 10. Zach Williams, that was devastating to see. Just the demeanour on his face. He was a mess. Obviously, initially, we're all fearing that he had done his Achilles. Then his body language seemed to change after they went downstairs and had a look at it. And hopefully, it's not an Achilles rupture. Hopefully, I know this is weird to say, but I hope he's just done a calf strain or a lower calf strain. So hopefully, we're going to get those results at some point during the week, and we'll figure it out. But it's just a shame because his body lets him down at times. He's a sore. He's been sore for a couple of weeks as well with the ankle / lower leg / foot, whatever it is. And I'm just hoping that it's not season ending for Zach because I really want to see him get to his best footy and play consistent. I think everyone does. So I didn't rate him. He didn't play enough of the game for me. Sadi, it was solid. It was a solid start from him. Gave away a silly free early to Toby Green, I think after Toby Green kicked that first goal. I don't know, I felt like Saad just didn't have the same impact as what I've come to get used to from him. I don't think he was poor at all. I thought he definitely got his job done and then some. I gave him a 6 for his game, but I've just come to see him play at such a high level, and there are naturally going to be ebbs and flows throughout the season, and I just thought this was one of the little ebbs for him, and I'm sure he'll be back to his best this week or the week after. But yeah, just not the best Adam Saad game I've seen, but certainly not the worst. And that's the beauty of him. When it's not his best game, he has this minimum standard that he's always able to reach. Next up, we have Jack Noons, Cripper, and Sam Walsh. Jack Noons, I liked his game. I did. I actually loved his game. And I love what he's bringing to the side on that other wing. It's been a topic of contention. I think early in the season, probably rounds 2 to 4, there was a little bit of discussion around, oh God, the wing position's not looking good. I think it's improved since then. And the one thing that Noons brings is his strength and his physicality. Whether it's spoiling a ball, whether it's laying a strong tackle, whether it's just holding the play up. He's a smart footballer. He knows how to use his body. And I think oftentimes what he does goes unnoticed. And that's just been, I think, personally, the story of Jack Noons in his career. But he's a consistent footballer, and he's put some more body size on over the last 2 seasons, I feel. And, he has his moments where they're not so great, but I thought he was really good for the majority of the game. So I gave him an 8 for his game. I'm enjoying what he's brought to the table over the last few weeks. Cripper, I loved his game, and I think what needs to be stated and just brought to the attention, like, yeah, it wasn't a prolific game that we've seen all season. I don't think this will be a game where he gets the 3 Brownlow votes, but he had quite a few minutes in the ruck, which I think's genius. I think around the ground where it's just a sort of body-on-body situation, I think there's no reason why we can't be using him in the ruck, because he's strong enough. He brings, a midfielder into the ruck with him. In this case, it was Tom Green, and I thought it was something unique, and I think it's something we could look to explore as the season goes on. Obviously, I don't want him to be taking centre bounces where he's going to have to, jump into a ruckman and put his knee up. But I think around the ground where he's just wrestling, that's fine by me. That's not going to cause him too much injury, I wouldn't have thought. But I think it is more taxing on the body. So I still gave him a 9. What I looked at with Cripper was the fact that he had to do something outside of what he normally has been, and sort of take one for the team and play a role that it's just not what he does. He's not a ruckman, obviously. So he was super strong. I loved when he dragged Tom Green forward and took that mark inside 50, and unfortunately didn't kick the goal. But he's just leading so well this year, and I'm super impressed with him. And all credit to him, because there were times last year where I wasn't sure where his mind was at. He was playing obviously a little hindered with injury, but I really wasn't sure what was going on with his mentality and the leadership aspect. I was really starting to get worried, but that's just completely gone. And that's just a testament to the work that he's put in, not only on his body physically, but I think he's done a lot of work on his personal development. I remember his Dylan Friends episode where he spoke about his love for personal development, and it's starting to show. The craft is there. He's got a great coaching group around him. He's got a lot of players around him that are also growing, and I think he's just come such a long way in 12 months, which is crazy to think about, because he had already come such a long way. So I gave him a 9 for his game. Sam Walsh, he was my player of the game. I gave him a 10. 2 huge goals in the first quarter, just set the tone. He lifted again in the third quarter massively. I noticed him every time there was a spillage in our defensive 50 and a lot of pressure. He was the one mopping up and running out of that stoppage, getting the clearance, and just back to his best. Now, he's been pretty good all year, but there was something different, in my opinion, the way I saw his game with the way he played. He just looked to have a different force to the way he had the ball and the way he was running. He copped a knock, I think it might have been in the third or the fourth, and he looked a little proppy, and I was a little worried about it, but just seemed to shrug it off. No nonsense, works hard, and got the reward for it all. 31 touches, 2 goals. He was sensational. So gave him a 10. Next, we've got Fisher, Charlie Curnow, and Carroll. Zach Fisher, that's my boy right there. 10, absolute 10. He's having a career best year. And again, if you blink, you'll miss it. This is the best football he's played. I think he's had one game this year where he just didn't play well, and that was the Freo game. But so what? You're going to have him from time to time. I think he's starting to figure out exactly where his place is with the system. Looks to be getting fitter as the year goes on as well. And surprise, surprise, what happens when you have continuity? This is what happens. Generally, the more games you play in a row, the more fitter you get, the more confident you get. And he's been a player, touch wood, has always seemed to have some sort of an injury strike him at just the wrong time of the year, and he misses a chunk of the season. And I'm just so happy for him, and he's really growing up. Little fish with a little headband and the longish hair, just like that. We're in 2022. He was drafted in 2016. We're just about halfway through his career. It's crazy, but he's just so dangerous. There was a beautiful passage of play where he kicked it inside 50 to George Hewitt, who ended up missing that shot. That was great. The creativity is showing, the skills are showing. The run, chase down, tackle that he made and subsequently kicked a goal was sensational, and I'm just happy for him. Gave him a 10. Charlie, I loved his game. He was double teamed and triple teamed, and obviously we get to see why it's so important to have Harry there as well, because Harry requires serious attention, and so when Harry's not there, that attention can then go double the amount onto Charlie Curnow. But the one thing about him, it didn't matter. He brought the ball to ground. He provided a contest, did all the hard stuff. And then he got his reward in the fourth quarter, kicked his 2, game on the line type stuff, lifted for us, took his moments. I gave him a 9. I don't know if that's a 10 game from Charlie, just because I know what he's capable of now. But I don't want to be too harsh, because there's also the whole element of his journey and how much footy he missed. But I don't know. I left it as a 9. If you think that was a 10, let me know in the comments. Jack Carroll, he worked hard early. I thought he had some moments where it just seemed to not make the right decision, but he's just figuring it out. I think there were a few handballs that just put his teammates in some dangerous positions. I think the one where he handballed to Kennedy, who got spear tackled, was the one that comes to mind. But listen, he's so early in his career, and he's going to get better, and there are going to be ebbs and flows, and I'm just willing to ride them with him, because I know he's got whatever it is, he's got it. But I loved his work rate. I love his willingness to crack in. And I think Vossi hit the nail on the head with that press conference on his debut week, where he said, he won't shirk a contest. So he's coming along nicely. I gave him a pass mark for his game, but would love to see him get a bit more into it. And he will. It'll come. Next up, Jesse Motlop. Good to see him debut. Really good to see him debut and bring a different element to us and this forward line. It's very interesting to see him and Durden and always in the same team. And it's very dynamic. Obviously, it was pretty wet in Sydney for the majority of the weekend, so it made sense to play a smaller side. I thought he got better as the game went on. I think early on, you could just tell. And, watching him in the VFL and watching the speed of the game, it's so different. And you could sort of see it early in the game, but he seemed to adapt really well. I thought he got better as the game went on. The fitness will come, the power through the legs will come as he keeps playing. But I gave him a 7 for his game. Good to see him kick a goal and all of them get around him. It was great. And, just wish him nothing but the best, and hopefully one of many games to come. Next up, Jack Silvani. Jack Silvani, mate, you kidding me? Start of the year, I fucking knew it. It was sauce. No more J sauce. This is now sauce. He's taken the mantle and he's put the crown on, and he is now carrying the sauce tradition. He was sensational. Just worked hard all game. His goal in the third quarter was unbelievable. The hit up to Motlop as well in that third, just to get Motlop's first goal. Just footy IQ, understanding the assignment, understanding what it would do for us. He started, I think he was one of quite a few that really lifted in that third quarter especially, and love to see it. He missed a shot on goal early in the fourth, which really would have helped, but it didn't matter, because I don't know if it was Doherty's goal that was the sealer or if it was Jack Silvani's, but so happy for him. 20 touches, 2 goals, getting the reward for all the effort and all the faith that's been put in him. And there's no doubt about it. Like I don't even care if people don't rate him who are not Carlton supporters, because it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. He's great, and he's great for the football club, and I'm proud of where he's come from and his development as well. A lot of these boys are now really coming into their own, and it's so pleasing to be able to say that with confidence. So I gave him a 10. Then we go to Corey Durden. Mate. Are you kidding me? What was that? That was a phenomenal game from Corey. I think it was his 10th game. His pressure was just... It's always there. It's just the base level for him is bring the pressure. There are going to be weeks where he doesn't get the reward, whether it be on the scoreboard or on the possession tally, but you cannot question what he does from a work rate point of view. It's really impressive. His willingness to constantly want to push himself into that red zone, and you just get the reward for it eventually. And this game was that. I have so many notes. The elite pressure forced the rush kick in the first 15 minutes to go. Both his goals were great. Just read the play so well. His ability to get up the ground and just win the ball. His strong marking ability in the third. Another one in the third with there was an inside 50 with 13 minutes to play. Then he hit the post. He was just on fire, and it's just pleasing for him. He's got a level head about him. He won't get too caught up in the hype, but I'll be sure to be giving him all the hype that he deserves, because he's coming along nicely. And yeah, just pleased to see these players get their reward for their effort. So I gave him a 10. Then we've got Tom Deconing, George Hewitt and Chera. Tommy Deconing, I think he probably lost the ruck battle on the day, but he kept battling and he kept going and he kept competing. And we just know he's just, he's not in the peak of his career. He's he's sort of rising over the hill. There's still quite a few games for him to go before he reaches the summit and then reaches into that peak zone of his career. And the reality is there are going to be games where he gets beaten because he's just not there yet. And I think this was one of them. And Bruce is a big, strong bully of a ruckman, but I still think Tom did a pretty good job the way he went about it and competed and provided the ground coverage and the tackling and the pressure. And that's important. That's all I really want to see from him. I'm willing to accept that this is going to be a challenging period for him, and there are going to be weeks where he does really well, and there are going to be weeks where he gets beaten a bit. So I thought this was one of them. So I gave him a 7 for his game, maybe an 8. I'm tossing up between the two. I think I'll put it as a 7 for now and see what you think. George Hewitt, not a bad first game back from injury. He was missed. He had 30 touches in the end. He went at 73%. Kicked 2 behinds. Probably should have had a goal, that important set shot. I want to see him nailing that. Just uses the ball well, does the right things, makes inside 50s happen. He's an important body to have there. And the fact that he's come into the side after missing with the calf complaint and, play the way he did, super grateful to have him in the team. So I gave him a 9 for his game. Ches, I thought he was one of our better players. Probably one of our top 5. What do you have, like 24? Doesn't even matter what he had. I think his tackle numbers were the one that got me. He led the team with 7 tackles. And that was important because the Giants are a tackling team and they're a physical team when they're at their best. And I thought he brought the heat. His first half I thought was exceptional. Had a few moments that didn't go his way, again, as they all do. But I thought he was really good. I gave him a 9 for his game. Then we've got the bench. We've got Lockyer, Matt Kennedy, Nick Newman and Owies. And then Cottrell, who we will talk about because he played the majority of the game. Lockyer, what was interesting? I think he started a little slow. And I think this was a really important game for Lockie because there was that moment, I think it was in the second, he got pinned holding the ball, just took a bounce. The ball just bounced in front of him. It was just unlucky. And I reckon in years gone by, that moment gets to him and he just drops his head a bit. But he continued on and he got better as the game wore on. And that was a really important thing to see from my point of view about him. Kicks a really important goal in the third with 9 minutes to go. I thought that really got his confidence going, and to see them get around him and embrace him was great. And then when you look at his statistics, he's had 22 touches, taken the 8 marks, but he's kicked a goal. But it's the 672 metres gained for me, and that's Lockie O'Brien at his best. And that's the kind of game that I want to see from him. I think that was the best game of his season. Obviously hitting the scoreboard helps, but the meterage and the territory that he was able to gain for us is really what we want from him, because that's what we want to see. Kick the ball more than what you handball, provide an option, run hard. You're going to get tackled, you're going to get mistakes will happen, but he's just a different player and he's really locked in and focused, and I'm just stoked for him. Really happy for him. I gave him a 9 for his game. I thought he was really good, and obviously room to improve and all of that, but yeah, I'm getting right behind him because I think he's worked really hard on his game. Had a good preseason and it's showing. From a guy that most, if not all of us, thought he'd probably come to the end, which was really crazy to think. He's so early in his career, but I just wasn't sure where he was at. I think he's done very well, so I gave him a 9. Next up is Matt Kennedy against his old side. 27 touches, kicked a goal, played a really good game. Just one of many. Him, Hewitt and Chera, there's such a good group that have really elevated. I know that Kennedy had a really strong finish to last year, but this year he's been absolutely at his best, and he obviously got rewarded earlier in the week with the contract extension. So happy with him. I thought he was really good. I gave him a 9 for his game. One of our better players. I think all our midfielders are really, really good. Then we've got Nick Newman. I gave Newey a 6. I don't know. I think last week he was solid. The week before, I remember making the comment about how I just didn't feel like he was as influential as what he had been earlier this year. I think round 1 is another example of that. I just didn't feel like he had as much impact as what I know he can. I don't know. It was an instinct thing. I think we are going to need him a lot more, and we're going to have to rely on him a lot more now that Zach Williams has hurt himself, and it looks like he'll be out for a little while. And I think Newman is going to be an important part of how we just cover for that. But, when he's playing at his best, he's really gaining territory for us, and his meters gained are in the 450s, 500s, etc. But ultimately, he's a real senior guy on the list, on the team. Like, when you have 8 players in this group, 22 or younger, you need a guy like Nick Newman in the team. And I think he's important. He's a great leader at the club. They love him. We love him. I love him. So I gave him a 6. I know he didn't hit the scoreboard, but I loved what he brought. Especially early. The pressure and the ability for us to lock the ball inside our forward half was due to everyone, but these forwards, him and Durden, their pressure was on another level, and they really set the tone to get us going early in the piece. I gave him an 8 for his game. Probably would have been more had he hit the scoreboard, but I think he played really well, and I think he just ran himself into the ground, which was pleasing to see, as he always does. And then finally, we've got Cottrell, who came on as the sub after Zach Williams went down in that first quarter. And he was ready. And I think Cottrell has really improved. And I said this last week about him, and I'll say it again. He's just incrementally getting better every time I watch him. Every year I watch him, he's just gotten better. I remember when we first picked him up, and he was just this skinny runner. And that's what he was. And now he's started to put some size on. The game is starting to slow down for him, I sense. And that's a sign of a guy that's starting to really click with it. And I think it's just coming along nicely for Cotters. He had the 15 touches. He used the ball well, 93%. I think that's been the knock on him in the past. He might get 16 or 17 touches, but he won't use it as well. Whereas this game, I thought he used it really well, made some smart decisions, gave himself time and space, even though he was under pressure a lot of the time. And he's done well. I think he's done very well to play well in this game. I gave him a 7. Maybe that's a little harsh, but again, let me know in the comments, what do you think about the ratings? If you think any of them should be changed, higher or lower. Nothing personal. Don't get offended. Just have the discussion. We'll go from there. Enjoy the week. I'm loving it. We're in the top 4, a game clear on the top 4, and I'm just going to ride this for as long as it's here. So we'll chat more about it in the comments, and go the Mighty Blues.